So, I'm very excited to show you this build because I have been loving these caravans and I wanted to have one that was actually a community lot and possibly a small business venue your sim could buy and live there if that sim is a fairy, or that your sim could buy and have separate from their house. Maybe the sim could live in one of the lots near this area because I was building in the town area of Henford-on-Bagley, and I wanted to have a cafe and I wanted it to be fall themed. So I grabbed all of these pumpkins and everything else that would make me think of autumn, like piles of dead leaves and so on. And at first I was going to use the wheels from the horse ranch debug, but I remembered that I had been wanting to use the collectible wheels from Businesses and Hobbies. So I ended up exchanging them for those, and that worked a lot better. Also, I decided that it wasn't a good idea to have this in a diagonal room, so I ended up having it in a more traditional orientation. But I still think that this looks like it could have been just a movable thing that maybe they only set here in the autumn, or maybe they change the decorations all throughout the year. Not entirely sure on that, but since I was using the Cozy Bistro kit, there are so many pretty swatches that you could change whenever you felt like it and whenever seasons change in the game. But anyway, I have been really loving the start of autumn. I know it's been going on for some days, but where I live it still felt very much like summer, and recently we've been getting colder days and more cloudy days, some rain, and it has been so wonderful, and it really is my favorite season. And so I decided to, since I love coffee and all of those sorts of things, like my happy places are cafes, I thought that this could be called the Pumpkin Spice Cafe, and you could find it under that name in the gallery. Also, I will have the link down in the description, and if you wanted to search for my ID, it is Veranio. I post all of my builds, or at least all of the builds that the gallery allows me to post. One of my recent caravan builds, it was a starter home. I wasn't able to post, sadly. I will still keep trying to do that because I tried really hard to make it a starter. So yeah, hopefully I will be able to share it as well. But if not, the video still has some useful ideas, I think, if you wanted to do something similar. Oh, and I really liked the swatch that I was using from the Cozy Bistro kit, but there is only one wallpaper from that I chose to use on the inside. And outside, I actually found that a few of the swatches, some swatches from For Rent, Snow Escape, and actually the bowling stuff pack match the same sort of warm, reddish, almost orange wood. So I decided to use the one from the bowling night stuff pack. I'm sure there's others that could fit. But yeah, I was happy that there was one that matched pretty well. And I did include some seating inside. I suppose you could have some other, maybe like a tiny kitchen, since I did add a fridge. You could probably have an oven or some other appliances. Maybe you could have one of those surfaces where you can have stuff that you can use to have stuff for sale. That could also probably work. But yeah, I decided to have some seating inside because I really wanted to use some chairs that didn't look like outdoor chairs, because that felt cozier, I thought. I still wanted to have stuff outside that would be cozy, so I grabbed some of the blankets, for example, since I once went to a cafe, and this was still in the summer, but this was a very windy place, and I was shivering so badly, and the people I was with, they were like, "Do you want a blanket?" And I was like, "No, that would be so embarrassing." And they were like, "The cafe has blankets, you can just grab one and stop suffering." So I decided that this cafe would be similar to that one. And I also grabbed some of those like coffee items and teapots and stuff from Get Together. I think you could also have the Get Together coffee bar if you wanted to, instead of this one from Businesses and Hobbies, and have it as a regular cafe, and there wouldn't be a problem really. You would of course have to exchange the wheels for the ones from Horse Ranch or something similar to that. But yeah, I think that this would be pretty, this is a decently versatile idea for a few community lots. You could also have it as a bar. And yeah, I just added some more of those like coffee utensils that I often see in some of the cafes that I go to, and they actually are able to, they know how to use them and make different kinds of coffee. And I got some signs. I got patchy just as a decoration mainly because I don't have anything planted in here. But I found this sort of, it's like a flag, I suppose, or a banner, and I decided to hang it from patchy. So yeah, it has a little nail, and so it looks like it's nailed to his tree. I also got these beautiful lights from Life and Death. They have a very nice they have very nice swatches. I chose a metal that looked very similar to the banner that I was using at the front. That one is from Courage Living, and I chose it because it had a huge pumpkin, so I imagine that the name of the cafe is there. And I also got a smaller sign, also attached to the, I suppose it's like a cart. By the way, I don't believe that you could have a car drive up here since some of the path is blocked, so that it's only like a walkable area. So that's not the most realistic, but at the same time, cars don't work in the game, so it really doesn't matter. I also got a menu and a phone in case somebody wanted to make their order on a phone. And that sign that I have inside, I think I ended up removing. Also, at some point, I raised up that little shelf with all of the coffee pots and stuff. And I decided to get a few more counters. I added I think the chocolate tray, as well as some tea boxes, bread, the cookie jar from the kitchen clutter kit. So that's also a functional thing, and that way you could have Sims stay longer in here if they wanted to get some cookies. I also got some more tea in canisters, both from Courage Living and Snow Escape. Oh, and also from the country kitchen kit. Yeah. I also really like adding that coffee machine. I do not know if that could be problematic and if Sims would try and use that. Of course, you could also like add a gate or some sort of barrier so that only employees could use that, could have access to that area. But I find it really cute, and I think that it looks a lot more. My idea of coffee looks more like that machine than the one on the bar, so that's why I chose to use that one. And here I'm just adding one of the teapots from the ceramics skill from Businesses and Hobbies, and I also have a timer from the kitchen clutter kit. Oh, I also really struggled to find a texture for the roof that looked correct to me, and I decided to keep this one. Actually, it's from Eco Lifestyle, and it has solar panels, so that way you could pretend that this is like self-sustaining or whatever. And I got the really cute mailbox from Enchanted by Nature. I thought about having the swing from that pack, but I actually ended up getting the ones from Life and Death instead. They felt a bit more correct for this area because this one is really beautiful, but it just didn't feel like it belonged among all of the items that I was adding. Oh, by the way, you will see at the end that I add some restrooms to this space. I have the outhouse from one of the recent events, and I added a sink and a mirror outside, so I didn't forget about those. I would not have forgotten about them if I was making this as a cafe, because that way it's a required item. I did remember the trash can though. But yeah, I added that, and you might see that I already have a table that has been styled for the autumn, and I didn't show the process for that because there was a lot of back and forth. So what I did was that I added a second table like that, and I just decided to show that part instead because it was a lot easier to follow the process on that one since I had already figured out what I wanted to do with it. So I have some smaller pumpkins from Cottage Living. I have some candles from Seasons and some from Lovestruck, and these two bowls of acorns from Enchanted by Nature, and it just looked perfectly autumnal to me, so that made me very happy. I also got a bench behind this design, and on design I also decided to have a menu because I was thinking that it would be easiest for people to know what they wanted, and if they wanted to order something else, they could think about it while looking at the menu. I did size it down so that I could have a wreath on top of that, and I also made it smaller so that everything was able to fit in there, and it matches the curve of the design pretty well, I thought. And I also paved this whole area since that made the most sense to me, especially for the transportation of the actual like caravan. And I think I ended up using the stones from Jungle Adventure, and I framed them with the stone rocks from Get Together. That way it looked pretty similar to what the sidewalk looks like, although the colors are a little bit off, but that can't be helped since this is a Sims 4 and nothing matches. Anyway, I also got some of these beautiful trees from Cottage Living. One is just a decorative tree stump, but I got the one that has the bunnies and the one that has the birds. And I also got a little fairy home next to it. I also moved the mailbox to that area since it was going to be just grass, and it does make this have a little bit of a strange shape there in the corner, but it was just the best way I could think of to include all of that. And that way a fairy would be able to live here and stay there the entire time. Maybe you could have a sim that doesn't live here full time, but if they wanted to stay overnight, they could. And I just thought that made it a lot more flexible. And since there is an actual bathroom, that would make it a lot easier. Now I am doing the thing with the swings. I also thought about the one from Little Campers, which is also pretty nice. It has some lovely colors and it's just a really beautiful set. But this one just felt a lot more... It just made more sense to me because of how rustic and old this whole town area looks. I really want to build more stuff like inspired by the season here in this really beautiful town. I also think that having some stuff like this in Ravenwood would be awesome, and the new world that came with fairies. I have so many ideas for that little town I have barely built with Enchanted by Nature. Now I have added another menu because this was looking a bit too blank, and also I remembered about the bathrooms, and I chose, I believe, a sink from, I think it's one from Laundry Day, because that one fits better with a mirror. I added this one from Enchanted by Nature as well. It has a very autumnal swatch, and I thought that worked really well. And also that way you could think about what you would want to order while waiting for someone to come outside of the bathroom. And it's just the most convenient thing to always have a bathroom available for your Sims. And that's going to be it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know in the comments what you think about this build, and also if you have any ideas for anything that you would like to see me build. I love building, and I am finally going to be able to have more time for it, and yeah, I'm just excited. Thank you again so much for watching, and I hope to see you again soon. Bye everybody!